Well, hello there. I am doing Scarlet today with the Crossbow, and contrary to what some people might say, I'm taking a lot of the rune perks you saw there were elemental perks, which apparently might be the worst. Obviously, it depends on your build, and we'll find out. I should actually, well, no, I don't think I kill anything immediately. And on the topic that I wanted to save this for the actual challenge video, but I mean, I guess I could talk about it now as I'm kind of trying to figure out what I want to do with, but now this is technically still progression, so I'm trying to red 15 every character, and I also wanted to use a mod that, changed what the characters look like, but since I haven't 15'd every character, then I don't want to use it. Because I haven't done what it changes what the sprites look like, but, yeah, since I haven't 15'd everyone yet, I don't want to use it. So, out of some misguided sense of pride, I guess. But it was pretty cool. It's pretty cool. The person didn't need to make that, but they are like, hey, they decided to share it in the community, and yeah, it's there in case you were wondering. So, but on top of that, yeah, for the challenge video, I wanted to mention that people have already, I think, either done or are attempting things like, no moving, no perks. Reach max level, which apparently is 75, I think, is from what I hear. So compared to what they're doing, my challenges are a bit, more tame, but I never said that they weren't easy. In fact, I should be saying that they're easy. But again, I'm ramping up for the things I want to do. No move is something I'm saving for later. If you wanted to mention the achievements for this game, like Pacifist, those are part of more progression, again. 15ing is like bare minimum requirement in my mind. And then, oh my goodness. Do I go? No, let's go. I know I'm using the crossbow, but I'm using the crossbow. So, crossbow is not seen favorably by a lot of people, I think, from what I've seen, but I could be wrong. And obviously, once you get the build that you want, it doesn't matter regardless, usually. So, that said, I will say that it's not as great, and I think at this point a lot of people are saying shotgun is, not easy mode, but it makes the game a lot easier. So, but challenge-wise, yeah, pacifist runs, reckless runs, those are more progression, so those aren't really challenge videos in my mind. To me, it's a more normal part of the game. Now, I don't expect everyone to treat things that way. If Pacifist is challenging for you, it's challenging for you. I'm not going to say it's easy. It's just that for me, in my mind, doing it personally, I consider myself, hold myself to a high standard in terms of trying to do things and have fun. So, again, it's mostly for fun. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it in the first place. But it helps. There's some personal improvement involved, and if people are, entertained by my struggles along the way, or anything that happens to happen in my journeys, then, yeah. So I should be actually leveling up here. In fact, even, I call it grazing, but basically killing enemies as close as possible. My short term for that is grazing. Killing enemies that you're grazing is better for XP generation, because when you kill something and it drops experience, you don't have to run to get it. That said, if there was some way to pick up orbs from farther away, or that are, a long distance away, it could make our leveling up life easier, but it does make the game easier, so maybe some people don't want that. It's a whole thing that could be of a topic of debate. Don't I have ethereal? I probably should have just... Yeah, I probably had ethereal at some point, but it's too late now. So, well, we're gonna keep shooting, and hopefully things go well. Even avoiding using double shot, if you didn't know what I was doing for my challenge videos, the meat of it is no double shot, no freeze, which are double shot indirectly is a very good perk. I'm not going to say it. Well, you could argue it was the best perk. I wouldn't argue too much with that. Double shot builds into some of the best perks you could get. In fact, a lot of what it grows into, and it's one of its synergies is one of the best things for, you know, some of the challenges that people are doing, like max kills or record high number of kills and a high level, and obviously Shauna, because Shauna gets experience, and then you're trying to play at a certain difficulty level because you do not want the, if you're going for a high level, you don't want the darkness level that lowers your experience gain, is the point we're trying to say. But freeze on its own is pretty powerful, so. And at this point, we could talk about what the dev could do. I will never try to push things forth. If I wanted to put something in the game, or say something that I would want in the game, I would actually go into the community and put it in the suggestion area. So things I say in video, I mean, it could be inspiration, but it's not meant to persuade anyone, is what or it's not meant to persuade the dev to put something in. But if anything else, it's something for me to think on, and if people want to chime in, they can chime in. So at this point, you might be wondering, well, Jordan, if you're using the crossbow, shouldn't you be standing still more? But standing still, and I don't doubt that you can't do it. In that I mean, I'm sure someone has done it. No move crossbow, or, you know, using crossbow to its intended form, where you're supposed to stand still and get the bonus damage. In fact, you know, that's what a lot of people don't like about it, because if you stand still, you don't really get that choice at Darkness level 15. Of course, at this point, we could throw around the argument. It's like, well, you don't have to play 15. You know, it's whatever you want to have fun with, so on and so forth. I'm not summarizing. I'm not paraphrasing that argument. You know, to insult anyone. That's just the shortest way I think I can paraphrase it. But out of the way. Yeah, crossbow standing still. You might think, you know, you're supposed to stand still to make the most use, so probably should build into things instead of other things that require you to move. But at the same time, again, on Darkness level 15, which I assume most people are playing as, you don't really have that luxury. So if I stood still here, I would immediately get swarmed, and that's not great. Granted, part of what crossbow has in its defense is that it has higher penetration, I think, question mark. So, I don't know how I grazed Shug, by the way. Shug. I'm forgetting the name. I'm forgetting the exact pronunciation, or the spelling of the name. But, yeah, we're still going to move around. I mean, even moving around, it does at least higher damage per bullet. I'm not going to say it does overall more damage, at least objectively, compared to all the other weapons. But it still does a fair amount of damage. That said, yeah, I think I did. I'm proccing Ethereal, and I'm not doing anything with it. That said, if we're to monkey brain it, yeah, I should be. I did get Ethereal here and there, so I don't know why I'm just not holding down left fire, but moving on. So, yeah, a lot of, and then rapid fire and power shot are a lot of, you know, general utility. They're always good to take, but they may not be the strongest, but they're pretty strong in their own regard, if you exclude elements which are overpowered right now. And then mainly freeze. Freeze is the bulk of it, because once fire in a lot of people's minds are not. It's not something you put in your build unless you're playing specific character weapon combinations, like Scarlet, obviously, for burns. But nonetheless, in general case use, which is kind of not fair, because in this game it's all about situational what's happening in the situation to make the perks, characters, and stuff good. For freeze is a pretty good generic general perk, and then you take lightning and fire because they have synergies with freeze. So does lightning and burn? No, does lightning and burn have a synergy together? Actually, now I'm curious. Frostfire, which is fire in ice, and then Overload, Electrofire. Okay, Electrofire does, but assuming Burning create an explosion that deals 25 damage. So it's supposed to deal more AoE damage at best, or at worst, because we assume you have a full tree. So that means you have a larger lightning hit. The lightning strike does around like 40, 50 if there's, especially with Tome of Elements. But enemies have like hundreds of HP of damage. However, that's influenced by your fire rate because how lightning procs, and then burns as well, but burns is damage over time. If I were to give a suggestion to add more DPS to burn, you would add not the whole amount of damage over time, and I know that's something I carried over from a certain MMORPG, but you would allow burn to instantly deal maybe like half its damage over time the moment you apply it, and then allow it to continue ticking for its damage over time, or dot. So, you know, if you want to make burn by itself better, obviously, when you're using freeze and stuff, that's a lot of damage. When you consider someone with the full build, adding that to fire might make the damage too high. We say in a game where its description is to create game-breaking builds, but regardless, if you wanted to buff fire, I mean, that's my instantaneous, you know, in 5 seconds think of a way to buff it. So, and I'm sure I haven't looked up a lot of people's suggestions, so maybe someone has already suggested that. Again, it's not exactly an original thing. It's something I literally thought of by thinking of a certain MMORPG. So, yeah, so as you noticed, the thing I said about experience before is that I have all this experience lying around, grammar. I probably could have reached level 20, 21 by now, but, I mean, moving around to collect experience is a sort of difficulty on its own. That said, does Crossbow have the largest quote-unquote range of the other weapons? I can't really think of anything else. Flamethrower looks like it has long range, but that's because it moves slower than everything else, right? I feel like it does fizzle out, so... Because I'm looking at I think the bounce is what I'm seeing. And it moves pretty far, so... Again, based on how I believe range works, I'll say it one more time. Just in case I'm wrong, I won't say it too much more, but... So... Again, theorizing how range works, each bullet has a lifespan upon when you shoot it. So for Crossbow, let's say it lives for about 80 frames once fired. So, but every bullet also has a speed. So if it has a speed, you know, basic physics question mark. If it survives for 80 frames, that moves at say, and moves 10 pixels every frame, then you have... Can I even calculate that quickly? 80 frames, 8... So it moves 800 pixels in range, quote-unquote. That's the range. But there's no exact variable. Again, I don't know how Unity works in particular, but I mean, if you were to name a variable, if we're to go over pseudocode, then that's how I believe range works, which is, again, why bullet speed ultimately affects range. There's no variable that says range. I know people have asked for it, but maybe that's the reason why. In that case, then the dev might want to, or I would think of putting in, you know, an explanation, but where speed indirectly relates to range somewhere, but... I mean, the game doesn't really have a tutorial, and it's still in early access, and a tutorial is not, you know, among high priority. I mean, it's probably high priority, but it's not, you know, urgent priority when developing a game, so... Or releasing a game, at least in its in early release state, so... That said, I mean, I say that as a lot of games have tutorials in them, but... on early release, but you know what I mean. It's not a high priority thing compared to making sure the game is functioning and other things. Oh, I'm gonna get swarmed here. Do I have I do have fanfire, and I also have split shot. So ultimately, I mean, those are indeed good reasons why I haven't died yet. But still, also I need this perk as soon as possible. It would be really nice. Also, I think I'm under the effect of invincibility. That's right. That's probably why some of these bullets are not hurting me when they're touching me, and I think I'm actually eating the bullets. It's because I'm invincible, but there's no... Again, it's probably wasn't a high priority thing. And in fact, again, it's not a fair argument, but it quote-unquote adds to the difficulty, because you can't tell... yeah. Because, I mean, a recent patch came out that... a recent patch came out that made things a lot clearer on screen. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm invincible in a lot of these moments. And, you know, when you think about it, I know it's not part of the God build, or for what people might consider a God build, or a good OP build, but let me turn % fire rate every time sheep flakes burn. Resets on reload. And if you're not reloading, again, so what I was going to say as it relates there, yeah, so this is already, we've turned into a blender, a very slow blender, but you get what the point. What I wanted to say is, if you're never, you know, if you're never vulnerable, not invulnerable, due to the nature of, so let's say, because I have invincibility after inflicting burn or freeze 5 times or 50 times, if I keep inflicting that and I only leave myself essentially, because at a certain point, obviously the dream is to always be quote unquote inflicting statuses on 50 enemies and making sure I'm invincible forever, as stalwart Shauna is. But if we achieve the moment where Scarlet never becomes vulnerable, because again, so the reason I say that, for those who don't know, is that I have invincibility for 5 seconds once I inflict 50 enemies with freeze and burn. If I'm wrong, you know, you get the general gist. In 5 seconds, in less than 5 seconds, if I can inflict another 50 enemies, then theoretically the effect should reapply itself, which means I'm never actually able to take damage. In sparse waves like this, I am, but you get what I mean. So in that regard, then this build is OP as well, but it really depends on the goal. If the goal is survival, I mean, you have a bunch of builds with slight variations. I understand that most people have freeze and or double shot in their final builds because of what they do. Just look at what is happening on screen and tell me that, you know, I'm not being carried by freeze and double shot tree. So there must be an easier way to name that. If someone comes up with an easier name, either in the community or by telling me, I'd be glad to say it, but until now I say double shot tree. Because of the amount of, again, ultimately damage that's going out, AoE, and crowd control, because when you hit something, you get knocked back. Unless you take Tome of Rage, then it's a bit different, but also we're going to take Vitality so I don't explode in one hit, even though technically I have at least... Holy Shield nullifies 1 hit, no matter how much damage it does. And every time I inflict 50 enemies with status effects, I'm invincible. So ultimately, you know, my effective HP is infinite to 3 HP right now, minimum. If we were to look at it. Which is why characters with less HP, you know, they might be a bit better. That said, let me do this. No! Please, what have I done? I had to scratch my nose. I was itchy. Gosh dang it. Well, moving on now. So I definitely don't want to get hit. Don't those projectiles only do 1 damage? I think that there's still a lot of bugs in the game's current form, but let's make sure that we don't get hit by anything, if possible. Although I would like to get hit by projectiles, if not... Yeah, so that laser only does 1 damage to me, thankfully. It should do 2, but I feel like that's a problem with the, you know, a bug. Not a problem. Well, bugs are technically problems. That's a bug with, you know, certain things that the developer might be thinking of changing, but, you know, we'll leave it that way. That said, on the topic of intended things, assuming I don't die and the video ends, so we've talked about, I think, a triple assassin, which is a short form of saying, oh, wow, that's right, 5 minutes left, 2 damage, I'll talk about that later, I guess.